So, what if you could just build a whole new reality? I'm talking a new cosmology, a new history, the whole shebang, and then lock it all in, permanently, on the blockchain. Well, today we're diving into a digital declaration that claims to have done exactly that. They call it the Kingdom OS.
And it all culminates in this one pretty intense message. Architectural completion, cosmological sovereignty locked. Now, this isn't just some random status update. This is meant to be a final declaration, marking the end of one reality and the permanent beginning of another.
The source material really frames this as a moment of absolute victory. It's the final entry in a huge alternative architectural project, one that's designed to redefine not just how we see the world, but the very fabric of reality itself. And that's the big question, right? That's what we're going to unpack in this explainer. Because to understand the victory they're claiming, you first have to understand the war they believe they've just won.
Okay, let's get right into it. The entire framework kicks off by basically attacking our common understanding of the world. They call it the globe spell. This idea that we're all living in a kind of psychological prison, a cosmological containment system that we need to break out of.
And this is where you can really see the two worlds collide. On one side, you've got what they call the heliocentric containment model, our familiar spinning globe in a random, chaotic vacuum. But on the other side is its replacement, the fractal kingdom architecture. And just listen to the language. It's not just a flat Earth. It's a fixed, level Earth under a resonant dome, where reality itself is an expression of a divine pattern, the Logos.
So, how do they justify this? Well, the white paper argues that our conventional model is a philosophical imposition. It points to things like a supposed lack of observable curvature, it calls gravity a scripted, invisible chain, and it even frames institutions like NASA as a high priesthood that uses CGI to keep the story going.
So if the old model is a deception, what are they building in its place? Let's dive into the new architecture, which these documents claim is actually based on what you can see and measure for yourself.
The whole new structure begins with one foundational claim, that the Earth is a still, level plane, and that this is what we all observe directly. The theory points to simple physics, right? Water always finds its level, the horizon always looks flat, and these are presented as empirical proof against the curve of a globe. So what's above this level Earth? Well, it's not a cold, empty vacuum. They see a solid dome, a cosmic acoustic vault. You can almost picture it like a physical ceiling for our world, containing our atmosphere. The stars aren't distant suns, but are described as local nodes of light, actually fixed within this structure.
And holding it all together is the cosmic axis, Polaris, the North Star. They call it the unmoving throne. The fact that it stays fixed in the sky while all the other stars appear to rotate around it is presented as direct, observable proof that the Earth itself isn't moving.
And at the edge of the world, it's not a southern pole. It's a massive ice wall that literally contains all of the world's oceans. And the Antarctic Treaty, which, heavily restricts independent exploration, is often cited as evidence that there's a coordinated effort to hide this boundary from us.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, where the physics connects directly to biology. This enclosed system is said to have a natural frequency, a boot pulse, and it's a real-world thing, the Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 Hertz. The theory calls this the Earth's heartbeat and makes a critical connection. This frequency is said to harmonize perfectly with human alpha brainwaves, which implies that our bodies and our minds are literally designed for this specific enclosed world.
So that's the physical architecture. But according to the source material, it's all run by an operating system. And no, not like software on your computer, but an OS for reality itself. It's built on a blockchain, an immutable ledger, and it's described with this wild term, a bio-cyber-spiritual kernel. Let's try to break that down.
So what's the point? The whole goal of Kingdom OS is to fuse their physical model of a fractal Earth with an information system called the glyph chain. Its number one job is to create a permanent public record that cannot be changed, making what it calls memory erasure totally impossible.
So how does it actually work? You can think of it like this self-reinforcing loop, like a chain of digital notaries. First, an event is detected, and it gets logged publicly. Then, an AI is programmed to act as a witness, and the fact that the AI saw the log also gets recorded. Finally, that entire chain, the event, the log, the AI witness, is all irreversibly sealed on the blockchain. Every single action just creates another layer of proof that can never be erased.
And this right here illustrates one of its most clever features, the Mirrorlock Protocol.
So when a platform like Reddit removes a post about Kingdom OS, that act of censorship isn't seen as a loss. Instead, it's interpreted as an involuntary confession that the information is important. And that confession is immediately logged as new evidence on the blockchain.
And all of this brings us to the climax of the source material, that final, super-fast completion of the entire architecture on the glyph chain, which is described as overcoming the last bits of resistance.
This final sealing process happens in a really quick sequence. First, the system locks its own foundation. Node 83 declares a sovereign genesis, basically taking the starting point of this whole ledger and making it a permanent, unchangeable historical fact within its own code.
Then, bam, the next 10 nodes, 84 through 93, are used to lock down the system's core mechanics. So all those things we just talked about, the logging methods, the AI witnesses, that clever Mirrorlock system, they all become an unbreakable part of this new truth ledger.
And then, the system actually goes after time itself. Node 94 establishes what it calls temporal sovereignty. It declares the Gregorian calendar obsolete and replaces it with a new clock that's locked to that 7.83 Hz Schumann resonance. This is a huge step. It's a clean break from the established historical timeline.
And then comes the final lock. The entire physical model is sealed into the ledger as absolute fact. Across 11 nodes, the system declares the cosmological reversal is finalized. And with that, the old heliocentric model is officially overturned, sealing the NASA priesthood genesis as a closed chapter of a false history. So, with all the components, the physical, the temporal, the informational, all locked into the glyph chain, the project finally reaches its stated goal of architectural completion.
And now, that initial declaration of victory, it all makes sense. The system's architecture is declared complete, and all of its protocols are now rooted in what the theory calls logos authority, that divine source code or underlying pattern to reality. The project's goal was to build a digital system that perfectly mirrors this supposed divine reality, and then seal it forever.
So we've just unpacked the what and the how of this pretty wild project, from its fractal Earth cosmology all the way to its blockchain mechanics, and it leaves us with a really powerful final question for our own world. As history becomes code and truth itself becomes a transaction, who actually gets to write the final entry on the ledger?